Not fewer than 5 multinational companies have exited Nigeria. So far, so good. Now, this is not good at all. I would say so far, not good. So how do we halt this exodus? I've titled this episode, Halting ComXits in Nigeria. This is MarketSquare. My name is Olusola Ayodele, and I'm happy to have you join me on the show today. Africa's biggest economy, Nigeria, since 2023 has been experiencing a season of massive exodus of multinational companies. This is traceable to the election period, as it is typical during election period where investors tend to approach the period with a bit of caution as they are uncertain about the outcomes of the election and the policy direction of the incoming administration, leading to reluctance to make long-term investment decisions. One can also say that what made matters worse was the artificial cash scarcity at the start of year 2023. Now, these and other decisions have contributed to the significant number of businesses exiting the Nigerian scene. But more frightening is that these companies are mostly not more than 5 years of establishment in the country. I could mention a few. You have Lazapay. Lazapay happened to be a crypto payment company co-founded by a 21-year-old Emmanuel Njoku, who announced the shutting down of his company in April after just 2 years in existence. You also have 54Gene. 54Gene is a health data technology company that announced the shutdown in September 2023, bringing to an end its 4-year existence, in which it raised a whopping $45 million in 3 funding rounds. You also have Mabisco Biscuit, folded up in October 2023. It's called a Mayor Biscuit Company Limited, popularly called Mabisco, and announced its multi-million-dollar plant shutdown in Agbara Industrial Estate, Ogun State, after 7 years of existence. And then the popular Bolt Foods, that also joined the train of companies exiting the Nigerian market space in November. And for those who like ordering food, you also know about Jumia Food. Jumia Food closed down operation in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Uganda, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Algeria, and even in Ivory Coast. Now, from tech startups like Lazapay to multinational giants like Equinol, Procter & Gamble, the exodus has been noticeable. The impact of this exit has been felt on many fronts, as more persons have now become unemployed, and there has been reduction in the taxes collected by the government, and also a fall in the gross domestic product. With inflation figures released by the National Bureau of Statistics for the month of February, which stood at 31.70%, the unsteady state of the Nigerian naira and the proposed expatriate levy, what should we expect to happen going forward? To discuss this with me on the show today is the head of research and economics at the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association. Welcome, Mr. Olusola Ayodele. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us
today. Moderator.
Yeah, so the first question I want to ask you very quickly is, about the exit of multinationals in our country. It started probably 2 years ago, and it's been very, very rapid. It's happened so rapidly, even from 2023 up until now. So I want to ask you, do you think a nation can grow without multinational companies within its geographical space? Do you think a nation can grow without multinational companies?
Okay, like I said, thanks for having me. And I would like to go back to your intro. You listed out several companies, though some of them are not multinationals. Some are multinationals in nature. And I will say, yes, it's not a new thing for companies exiting a geographical location like Nigeria or elsewhere. And it's something that has been an age-long phenomenon. However, for every business or for every businessman or capitalist, they always look at where their little capital will yield more interest. And that's for every part of the world, that's always be the game changer. However, like you rightly said, companies are exiting Nigeria shores in the last 2 years. It's not against saying. Even I think our Dex research also bring out around over 50 or more companies. And if you would like to rely on the publication by Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, that over 767 manufacturers shut down operations, while over 335 became distressed only in 2023 itself. Yes, this is part of as a result of government policies. So to answer your question, can the country survive without multinationals? I would say yes and no. Yes, in the sense that yes, in the past, over before the independence, we've had the likes of the UAC, the Lever Brothers, which bought metamorphosed to the the Lever Brother, the Unilever of this world, and several other multinationals of this kind, of which they bring into their technology, they bring in their the capital investments as well as a knowledge based technology for them to develop the economy wherein they are. However, we also survive. I would say Nigeria has a very huge base SME platform. I think we have over 80 million businesses that are in small scale businesses, according to the I think National Bureau of Statistics as well as SMIDAN buttressing these particular statistics. So for us, which this sector also employs large number of people, contributing over I think over 46% to our GDP. So that's why I'll say yes and no. Yes, the multinationals employs huge number. Likewise, we have our SMEs as well that can also support the economy. So it's a an equilibrium that the economy needs to balance of the inclusion of these multinationals as well as promoting our SMEs development base.
Okay, well, to the question I asked, you said yes and no. And the question will now be to be very, very honest. I think you mentioned as well that when you have multinationals within a particular geographical space, what can happen there is increased employment. And given over the years, looking at history over the years, would you say that multinationals have contributed beyond just granting people employment? Because employment is just the thing. There are other things that when people are employed, there are other things they are able to do. So what are the impact of the presence of multinationals within our space apart from employment? So far, so good.
Okay, apart from the employment, which to me it's also germane, because for employing just one person, you know how this translates to the family, translates to the larger society that we also belong to. Likewise, I mentioned earlier the issue of the technology transfer. We can see that this multinational bring in their huge technological base for them to expand in the frontier in any location that they are, of which we can really see this translating from 1960 or even 1950 or thereabouts up to date. So technology transfer is another greater part that this multinational bring into play. However, also, I think they also bring in their capital. Yes, for every investor, you bring in your capital to every economy is to make profit. So the capital inclusion, which also had in our infrastructural development one way or the other, is also part of what this multinational bring into place. I think one of the things that we can see that resulted into their exiting in this part of the world, it's when you have a challenge in repatriating, because yes, once you bring in your capital, you trade with it and you make certain profits. There is a repatriation act that they can still take part of these profits back to their home country. And when you start seeing these challenges, it brings to for any investor to start thinking, should I change my business model? Because I can say the Procter and Gamble of this world, most of them change their business model. Not that they 100% move their factory away from Nigeria. It's just changing of business model for them to repatriate and go for other line of business.
Okay, sir. Well, again, we need to stay more on the question of what are the factors that have contributed to this exit so far so good. And like you rightly mentioned in your wrapping up about for the second question, as to the fact that some companies have had to change their model. In fact, in my research, I realized that there's a company that is just deciding to sell its plants to others and will focus on other parts of the business because of a few other things. So I want us to just try to list a few factors that may have contributed to the exit of these multinationals in Nigeria, and then see if we can draw a common factor between why companies are folding up, local companies are folding up in Nigeria, and why some companies are exiting.
Okay, I will try to respond more to the multinationals changing their business model or exiting the country.
Okay.
Like, yes, the issue of repatriation of their funds becomes one of the key factor. Also, when the business model changes, of course, you have the liberty to divert your investment to other sources. So why you do that, I think it might not be as a result of any decision of anybody. It's the investor's decision. However, I think most of some of the things that resulted to this somersaulting in government policies, of which you are unable to plan for a longer period. So once an investor, you have a particular policy you have invested into, let me say the use of backward integration, and then at the tail you've invested heavily for expansion, and even before the expiration of that policy, government reversed such a policy. To any investor, this would be a sign, a negative sign for you to start thinking, can I continue my business in this shore, or should we try to take it to another where the business we have a more friendlier business environment. So these are part of the factors that make such a decision. Now we can also see in the last last 10 years of an increase in our insecurity, of which it's limited the flow, will I say, for you to move around in the whole geographical location called Nigeria. So these are part of the factors, as well as your consumers, of which you have a reduced. Yes, Nigeria has the population, but wherein the population, the purchasing power of the population has been reduced. One way or the other, it also affects what you sell or the pricing of your products. We also know of high cost of transportation and all the rest. So all this add up to the decisions of both multinationals as well as even the SMEs, of some of them laying off, some of them shutting down because they can't continue incurring costs or losses as it were.
Well, I think you can also draw a common factor between the reason for which some local companies have shut down so far so good, and multinationals also shutting down their businesses in Nigeria. But we have seen that recently the federal government made an announcement that it will be ensuring that expatriates pay levy. In other words, that it says that it's an attempt for the government to increase income and force some companies to employ Nigerians. So the government is seeing it as a two-way thing where we make money, but in the process of making money, we're also ensuring that our people are being employed to work within that particular company. I know your association has been at the forefront of saying that this move will backfire in many ways, but from a layman's perspective, it looks very fair. So the question now is, what are we not saying? What are we not saying? And what are the negative impact of this proposed move by the federal government of Nigeria?
Okay, thanks for sharing the perspective for letting us to share the perspective on the expatriate employment levy. And for you to also allude to the fact that yes, the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association was at the forefront of kicking against this particular proposition by the federal government. For us in the organized private sector, we are in support of governments to show up its revenue, because that's one of the ways that governments can provide the infrastructural necessary for businesses to thrive. However, we only frown at when governments policy are being injurious to the survival of business. Yes, you lay mention of the issue of employment of locals. Yes, that is good. But however, for us to be making policy, one, not backed by law, then two, making it injurious to the survival of the existing businesses, not to even talk of businesses that are the foreign investment that is coming in. I think the country currently we have the safer the expatriate visas that expatriates pay, I think, around $2,000, but in naira. However, in the course of shoring up our revenue, we are now bringing up, not abolishing that the one that we have existing, bringing up another policy without consultation with the business community that will be it's just a pecuniary driven. And in this time of our country that we are trying to promote bringing in more investment to show up our revenue. So that for us, we believe that this is counterproductive. However, I think the country has the I think a policy that promotes indigenous, promoting expatriates, developing the indigenous experts that we have in-house, rather than us to review what we have in existence, than for us to be bringing another policy. We are talking about facilitating trade, not to also become, we're talking about exodus of businesses. This is another policy that government is introducing that will, if not suspended, as we've suspended it, if not even eliminated, it will further increase the number of expatriates and even businesses that will leave the shore of this country. So for us, we believe that it's better for us to sit down as a nation, stakeholders, for us to review the existing policy, rather than bringing another one that will just only, the end game is just to increase our revenue.
Okay, but I want to get your recommendation as to what you think. What should be the percentage for you have a company, for instance, indigents. How many percent would you say that should occupy that space? So, for instance, would you say 60-40, 60-40, 70 indigents, 30 expatriates? What would you say? What would your figures be?
For me, I won't rather than putting a benchmark of a percentage to what should be number of expatriate that must be in an organization. I think that there is an indigenization act that we have that states that. However, the investors, a foreign investors that is bringing its fund into any country, will also need to, it's your fund. You need to establish that yes, the fund that I'm bringing in, the technology that I'm bringing in, I have a right hand to manage the fund, right hand to manage the equipment for me to get a good profit at the end of the day. So for us to start to start dealing with expatriates based on, yes, you have a restricted number of people that you can bring into the country, I think it will be a negative thing for the economy in attracting investments. And at this time of this country, we need to bring up policies, friendly policies that will attract investors, because we really need the four FX at this time of our country.
Okay, well, the question now will be, you mentioned about looking at policies that can bring in investors into the country. And at the beginning of our conversation, you already mentioned some of the things that may have propelled or spurred some of these multinationals to leave Nigeria and just say, goodbye, we're not doing business here anymore. And the question would now be, what are the things we have to fix? And I like for us to be very specific as to how that we can, even if we cannot bring back the multinationals that have left, how can we retain the ones we have? Because sometimes if you lose a customer, and you can already trace what happened, why the customer left you. You can try to adjust so that you don't lose more customers. You can retain the ones you have. So we've lost some multinationals. How do we retain the ones we have? I saw in the news yesterday, about 2 days ago, how that the federal government is giving out tax holiday to some companies to say, because you have been able to reach this benchmark for a while, you will not be paying tax. So what other moves can the government make to ensure that the multinationals we have within our borders are retained here for a long time?
Okay. I mentioned, I think our laws should be more friendlier. I think as at the last night assembly, we have over 30 bills, 30 bills that has one tax component or the other for businesses to pay. So if those bills translated to an act, we are not talking of the ones that are already on ground. Yes, we have the presidential committee on fiscal policy headed by Taiwo Ayodele that is trying to merge as many or harmonize. Let me use the word harmonize taxes and levies in the country to as minimum as possible. However, that's why I talk about the issue of even from the National Assembly. Can we have a one-stop? I think okay. The taxes that will be friendly to businesses. That's on one side. Governments on the other side. When I say government, I mean the ministries, department, and agencies, both at federal, state, and local governments, for them to also have a friendlier business environment for businesses to thrive. We've asked instances to several multinationals of, you see government agency going to companies like a military zone because you want to enforce a particular act or a policy or the other. These are businesses that are paying taxes in millions, that are employing people in their thousands. So one way or the other, we need to have a kind of a human face to our implementation of our acts, of our policies, for us to have a thriving business environment. I will also talk about the issue of collaboration with key stakeholders of the economy. Yes, we can see intervention from the monetary perspective of it. What is the fiscal policy doing? We need to have a synergy within this fiscal and monetary policy for businesses to see where. I say lastly, just to add to that is a robust collaboration with the umbrella body that are in charge with businesses. I'll call them the organized private sector, the manufacturers association of this world, the NECA of this world, the NASIMAL of this world. For governments at all levels, having close collaboration. Yes, you will turn out policies, but let there be a robust collaboration with all these agencies or association for you to be at the initial, when you are initiating that policy. Let them have a buy-in in such policy before you start bringing it out, then you start seeing a back and forth. No, we can't take this policy. It is anti-business. It is so from the conception of that policy, let there be a consultation with the umbrella body, and with this, we will have a robust business environment. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. It's been an incredible time speaking with the head of research and economics of Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, Mr. Olusola Ayodele. Thank you for joining us on the show today, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, for you watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, thank you for joining. We are glad that you joined us from start to finish. Be kind enough to follow us on our YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook pages. Just follow us and you get feedback as to everything we put out online. My name is Oluwa Kwelumi. I will see you on the next one.